So let me tell you a story about the time I saw one of the worst keynote speeches ever. I mean, it was really bad. It was a guy who had spent all kinds of time preparing. That's what was actually kind of sad. So he comes up on stage and he's got all his papers that he's going to read from, and he's got his slides ready to go, and he gets up there, and almost within the first like 30 seconds, you can tell that something's about to go wrong. Like this is not going well. Number one, when he gets on stage, he's sweating and you can see the drops coming from his head. He hasn't even really said anything yet. He's already that nervous. So he's reading from his notes, and then all of a sudden, he drops his notes on the floor. He has to get down and pick them up. And imagine you're in the audience at that point. I mean, you are just feeling bad for this guy. It goes from wanting to hear something interesting about what he has to say to just like, I hope this guy does well. Like you're sort of like clapping for the kindergartner that's singing in front of the crowd, right? You're like, please just do well. You don't want to see him do bad. Well, anyway, he ended up finishing his talk and he spent more time with his head down than he did with his head up. And he tried to salvage it, but it just wasn't good. And when he got off the stage, the only thing that I could think was, why do things like that happen? How is it that you can put your whole heart and soul? I mean, this guy was prepared. How can you put your whole heart and soul into delivering content to people? You really genuinely care about your topic and you care about the people in front of you, for it to just bomb and to go horribly. Why does that happen? Well, if you're going to think about it, it might have already happened to you, where you actually care about your content. You care about the thing that you're working on. It might be your life's work. And you care about the people that you can deliver this to. You care about the people who might need to hear this, who could be moved, who could change their behavior because of what you say. But the challenge is, for you and for me, is how do you take the content that you believe in and you turn it into something that actually changes people? What people get wrong more often than not is that they believe that content is enough, that content is somehow a substitute for genuine charisma, like your ability to emotionally connect with an audience and make them feel something and then make them move somewhere. That skill right there, your ability to get people to feel something and do something about it, that is one of the most sought after skills in leadership. If you can do that well, and you can do a lot of things wrong, but that is the skill that will cover over a lot of sins. That is a really, really good skill to have. And so the question today for you and for me, how do you develop that? How do you take great content and infuse it with charisma and get people to change? That's what this episode is all about. Hey, welcome to the Dana Wolabi podcast. It is good to have you. Now, today's conversation is really all about helping you move past your notes, helping you get to a place where you genuinely connect with the people in front of you, because it means far more than you think it does. Like, here, take, for example, you are someone who is a leader. You wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't. There are there are particular perspectives, there's experiences, there's vision that you have that you believe if you could impart that on the people around you, it can make their lives better. It's beyond just the content. You want to inspire them to take action and move in a particular direction. That's what leaders do. It's not about managing numbers. It's not about managing positions. It's about inspiring people to move. And every now and then, you have a moment where you can actually get up and you can explain the content. Like you can tell people, this is what I'm thinking. This is what we're missing. This is why this matters. Every now and then you get that chance. It could be at a board meeting. It could be in front of a massive audience. It could be in front of your team. It could be at a year-end meeting. It could be at your annual blah, blah, blah. But you have those moments where you step up to the podium and you have to explain something in a way that makes them want to move. Here's what you and I tend to want to default to. We want to default to content. We want to default to the information, our slide deck, our notes. We make sure they're typed out. We make sure they're written out. We make sure they're perfect. And then we get up and we just read it dramatically. And we say, here's what I'm thinking, but we're reading it directly from the page, or we're reading it directly from the slide. And then when we're done, we sit down and, I mean, come on, we're leaders, right? So people are going to be polite. And that's what we get. We get golf claps, right? Like, well done. But we don't get movement. We don't get passion. We don't get energy. Nothing actually changes because we gave a particular speech. The thing is, when you think about speeches, when you think about giving keynotes, it's far more than delivering content. It's about connection. And oftentimes that's what you and I miss when we spend so much time thinking about the details that are important, but they're not sufficient. They're not the only thing that matters. What matters more than anything is connection. Now, before we go anywhere, I've got a confession to make. The story I told you at the beginning, that was me. I was the guy who gave the worst keynote speech that I had ever seen. And it was one of my firsts. And I'm telling you, it was months until I got over that moment. It was one of the worst moments of my life. I mean, you imagine me sitting there and I'm the one that's sweating, right? So I can see the drops coming off of my head and hitting the paper. I wrote my notes by hand. That's how much I cared about getting it right. And the ink was running, so I couldn't read it. And then when I switched the pages all fell. So now I've got to bend over in front of this audience of hundreds of people to pick up my papers that are now out of order. And now I've delivered the rest of the speech. And I'm telling you, I was only like 5 minutes into a 30-minute talk. Like, I think about it now, I still get shivers. Like, it was just so terrible. But it wasn't my last speech. In fact, I got up again and again and again and learned along the way the things that matter and the things that don't matter, the things that are essential and then the things that are just kind of fun to have, but not the most important thing. And what I learned over all these years, speaking on the biggest stages in the world, like the Global Leadership Summit, getting a doctorate in leadership and understanding how to genuinely connect with human beings, leading branches for over 8 years, leading and giving speeches for over 20 years. What I've learned in all of those years and all those experiences is that connection is the most important thing when you get up to speak. Finding a way to connect your experiences with their experiences and get people nodding their head sooner than later. That's one of the clearest indications that your speech is on the right track. And here's where we go wrong. I mean, this is the crux of it. We assume to be successful, we have to give people better information. That's not it. To be successful, you have to give people better connection. So in order to do any of this, here's what I need you to know. Content is not charisma. Content's not charisma. It's not. And I think you know this and I know this. If you've ever given a speech before and then you get off the stage and someone's like, hey, can you just send me your slides? Can you just send me your notes? That's a clear indication that you did not land, that people are more interested in your content than they are in you as a person. And they don't really connect with what you're trying to say. They're looking for the content. Content is very different than charisma. And one of the things that I've seen over the years is I've seen very, very competent people who have a lot to say and they have a lot on their shoulders. They have a lot of reason to lead well. They mistake content for charisma. In fact, I was just having coffee with a guy the other day and he was at a university. He'd been a professor there for about 30 years. And he was talking about the new president that had just come in. He said, she's a great person. Like, she is incredible. She knows what she's talking about. She understands the direction our university needs to go. She's told me that in our one-on-one conversations. And I really believe her. And then he said, but she is terrible at communicating to a larger audience other than just one-on-one or one-on-two. And that really hurts her because when she gets in front of the faculty, when she gets in front of the student body, she's reading her content and she's not connecting with charisma. People don't feel it. And that really hurts her ability to lead effectively. It's unfortunate, but it's human nature. If you and I were hanging out for any length of time, you would start to hear almost right away one of my personal passions. I love helping executives, entrepreneurs, and owners build businesses that benefit their communities. And if that's you, if you're building something that's going to make a difference in your community, I would love to help you with that. I would love to have my organization, Branches, help you with that. Make sure you click the link in the show notes and tell us a little bit more about what we can do to help you. We work with people all over the globe, helping them fine-tune their businesses, helping them generate more revenue, helping them figure out how to lead their teams with excellence. I'd love to help you do the same thing. If you're familiar with the legendary speech that Martin Luther King gave, the I Have a Dream speech, you know that there's a moment in the speech where things shift. Now, let me set the stage for you. So it's August 1963, and Martin Luther King is standing in front of Lincoln Memorial in front of like 200,000 people or more, and he's giving literally the biggest speech of his life. He's never given a bigger speech. And he spends all night preparing for this thing, right? It's just people everywhere. They've all come to really hear what he has to say about this moment in time, this cultural moment, this moment in history. And he's a young guy, right? He's in his 30s. He gets up on stage and he does exactly what that university president did. He looks at his notes, the ones that he prepared for the night before, and he starts to read them. And he's reading them and he's looking down and he's looking up. And it's a dramatic reading, right? So it's Martin Luther King. So he's doing it better than any of us would ever do, right? But he's still reading it. And it's a dramatic reading. And then there's this moment, you can actually hear it in the recording. It's about halfway through, maybe a little more, where a woman named Mahalia Jackson, like behind him, she's like 2 or 3 steps behind him. She interrupts the middle of his speech, literally real time. You can hear it. And she's like, "Tell him about the dream, Martin." And you can see his posture change, as if somebody just reminded him of why he's there. And he takes his notes and he puts them down. And then he looks up directly into the eyes of the 200,000 people who are watching. And he starts saying, "I have a dream." And he goes on and on and on. And you can feel things move in that moment. You can feel people sort of stiffen their spine. You can see tears in people's eyes. I mean, everything changes right there in that moment. And he connects and you can feel the crescendo. And he's talking about little children and little black boys and little black girls. And everybody's just getting excited. And he finally he hits the end with this massive moment. And then he walks off the stage, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. And then he walks off the stage. And you could hear the applause for miles. Now, here's why this moment was so big. That was the moment that America realized that he was somebody to reckon with. That was the moment, honestly, in history. That was one of the moments where people really sort of respected him for the first time. That was the moment that the Nobel Peace Prize Committee took notice of who he was and what he was doing. And the very next year, he became the youngest person to ever win the Nobel Peace Prize. But you can trace all of those things back to a single decision that he made. When Mahalia Jackson said, "Tell him about the dream," he put his notes down and he looked up. And he looked directly into the eyes of the people that he was trying to move. And I'm telling you, the moment he recognized that content was not charisma, everything changed for him for the rest of his life. Here's what's so remarkable about that. And you understand it, and so do I. This is the same man, the same speech, literally the same content. But the only difference is the moment that he looks up and he connects with the people in front of him. He puts down his notes and he lifts his eyes. Here's what's so remarkable about that. It is the same man. It's the same content. It's the same moment. But the only difference is the thing that makes the whole thing turn is that he lifts his eyes, he puts down his content, and he connects his heart to the people in front of him. And that makes all the difference. Think about the moments where you get caught up in content. Do you have a voice like Miss Jackson in your ear telling you and reminding you to be authentic, to be you, that who you are as a person is enough? And you have the ability to connect with the people in front of you. You know your stuff. Make them move. Get them out of their seat. Get them excited. Do you have a voice like that? Somewhere that you can go where you remind yourself again and again, that's right. This is why I'm doing this. This is who I'm doing this for. Is there a voice that steps in and reminds you of what that looks like? If there is, tap into that voice in moments like that. Okay, so how do you do this? Well, let's jump into the how-tos. Let's give you some real clear tools that you can use to actually get better at this. The best people in the world, they do not stumble into giving great talks. They do this intentionally. They're really, really good at 3 specific things. Let me give you the first one. The first one is focus on feeling. Here's what I mean by focus on feeling. When you're preparing your talk, one of the most important things that you can do is you can have really great points. You build a case and you make great points along the way, and it's really clear where you're going and why this matters to people. What people often miss, more often than not, is the feeling they want people to have about the points that they're making. Do you want them to be sad? Do you want them to be mad? Do you want them to be frustrated? Do you want them to feel empathy? Like, what is it that you want them to feel? Because if you can dial in the feeling, what you do then is you take your points and you actually turn it into a clear purpose. You make people want to do something now with the information. So every word you say moves them to action in a particular direction. So it's all about identifying before you get on stage, what do you want people to feel? And if you can say, I want them to feel excited, well, then you prepare differently. I want them to feel angry. Well, you make the same points, but you use a lot different words. I want them to feel sad. I want them to feel regretful. Whatever it is, the points change based on the feeling that you're focusing on. So you got to start with the feeling. Think of it like going on a road trip, right? So let's say you're going from your house to someplace in random California. You're heading in that direction regardless, but you've got to pick a car that you want to take. Now, here's the key. Each car that you have gives you a different feeling of what the drive is going to be like. If you pick your truck, it's going to give you a different feeling. If you pick your Corvette, well, that's a whole different feeling. If you pick your mom's minivan, that's going to give you a totally different feeling. If you pick the Prius, you're going to feel different. You're still going to get there, but the way that you feel on the way, and frankly, how you feel when you get there, it's going to be totally different. The best speakers are intentional, not just about the destination, but about the journey. How are they going to make people feel along the way? And that's why they focus on feeling. Here's point number 2. Whatever you have too much. You've got to cut the content. The challenge that you and I get into is that when we get nervous or we feel like we won't make a connection, is we jam pack our keynote, we jam pack our speech with a lot of information. And you have to be honest with yourself. Is that information there because of your insecurity? Do you feel like you have to have that information in order to connect with people? Because the reality is people oftentimes will connect with less information that's delivered with a lot more clarity and connection. And so if you have a ton of information, you've got to start cutting it now. Less is more in this situation. And when you give your content room to breathe, what you can do in between is you can tell a great story. You can learn to connect with the audience. You can actually slow down and enunciate your points. But the less you have, the more you connect. Here's the third thing you need to do. You've got to understand your content frontwards and backwards. You have to rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. And what I mean is know it so well that you can lift your eyes and look the audience in the eye and connect with them personally. And for a lot of people, that means spending more time behind the scenes than they do on the stage. For the best speakers that I've ever seen, for every hour they're on stage, they spend 12 or 13 hours behind the scenes preparing and getting ready. Here's one really critical thing that a lot of people do whenever they're preparing for a speech. They write their notes down by hand. There's something crazy about writing notes out by hand. It's almost like you imprint them on your mind. You put yourself in a position where it's not just information on a page, it's internalized in your soul. Like you really understand it when you take the time to write out every single word. And then when you get up on stage, when you talk to the crowd, when you talk to your team, when you're talking to the board, it's directly from the heart because you've put the work in.